All right, everybody, welcome to this second edition of the Family Medicine Exchange, the ideas and information designed to advance your practice. Today we have a very important edition brought to you by Family Medicine United for Colorado. This one's turning the corner on the pandemic, the COVID-19 vaccines, very pertinent, very relevant to what's happening right now, given that the Pfizer vaccine has been given emergency use authorization and the Moderna vaccine is very close on its heels. Today's guest, Joseph Saseen, he is the professor and vice chair, clinical and academic programs with the CU Department of Clinical Pharmacy, and John Koeppe. He is a doc in the CU Division of General Internal Medicine. Both of these gentlemen are extremely well versed in the vaccine landscape. So welcome to you both. We are really excited to have you here. John, really good news. You told me before we started recording that you're actually in line to get your vaccine today. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm sort of the phase, I'm the 1B group. I'm a provider, not least as far as I know, seeing COVID patients, but certainly could happen. So I'm in that 1B group. And so we're kind of on everybody in 1A is getting the vaccine, those that are directly caring for COVID patients or persons with COVID. And I'm in the 1B, might be without knowing it. So we're in a lottery system, and checking my Health Connection links that I won this lottery. My parents are moving in with us, my elderly parents. So I'm doubly delighted to have that little bit of extra protection. So so I'm later this morning going to head over and get my vaccine. So excited.
Happy Christmas to you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start with just kind of some questions here, and I want you both to sort of just chime in, given your expertise in the area, infectious disease and pharmacology. Can you both speak to the speed at which these vaccine candidates have been created, tested, given approval for use, and if that should be any cause for concern among providers or their patients? Because so many people say this is so rushed, but this is a different kind of vaccine and a different kind of technology, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to go first, either way, Joe, you want to start and I'll chime in?
Sure. I guess from a traditional drug approval standpoint, yes, this is much faster than any other medication that we typically would come up with. Vaccines are a little bit different. There are, I guess, view this as a set standard of expectations under investigation that a vaccine, a new vaccine, would have to actually meet in order to get approval. So even though this does seem fast, and it is fast, I will admit that, vaccines are studied under certain criteria, such as a certain number of people need to be evaluated for a certain period of time. And one benchmark that I think of as a normal standard is with a 2-dose vaccine that you have to have safety data on half of your patients at least 30 days after the second dose. And it's important for people to know that that standard still is there. So the normal safety and efficacy evaluations are being these new candidates, one already with emergency use authorization, one candidate status that's being reviewed today. They're actually expected to meet those normal standards. So it has been fast. I will say that some of this technology, so the mRNA technology is new, but it didn't just start with COVID. It was under investigation as a vaccine option before that. Keep in mind that vaccines never really, I hate to say this, had a huge incentive for being produced. There's always been a problem with companies actually making vaccines and having the financial, I guess, incentive to actually really go at a fast pace to develop them. And COVID's changed that, because overnight we had the need for something to get us out of this pandemic. So yes, it has been fast. It's been faster than other drugs, but even though it is newer technology, it's not 100% novel, meaning that it was thought about before COVID. And I'm comforted by the fact that they have thousands of people in their clinical trials to give us both efficacy and safety data. And within the life cycle of COVID, I know we always want to have multi-year data for most treatments that are chronic medicines. We do have, if you think about these agents, we have 30 days post the second dose data for half the patients. And every day that, and every week that we have another week, we have more and more safety data. So I feel actually good. I wish I were John. I keep looking at my health connection app for a message. I'm in the 1B tier also, but I did not win the lottery yet. And once I get that message, I will run to get my vaccination. I'm looking forward to it.
John, how about you? Do you have any concerns about the speed?
Joe really said it quite well. I think the speed, like he said, is reflects the technology, that this was a technology that was in place. And when COVID hit the scene, I think they sequenced the virus within, I think, some like 48 days and had that sequenced by January, and then could use this technology, this platform, this lipid nanoparticle in which you put the RNA of your desired vaccine and get it up and running. So not surprisingly, it's the messenger RNA vaccines that are leading the way. And I agree with Joe's assessment that I think the data looks good, and I trust the process has been adhered to. And just from a scientific standpoint, messenger RNA technology, when I first read about it, seemed like, how are they going to get this to work? Not is it safe? Mm-hmm. Messenger RNA is not going to get incorporated into our genome. It's going to be gone. I don't know how long, but within a week, the messenger RNA is gone. It's not going to affect our genetic code at all. So I think this is a really exciting technology. That the hurdle to me was how to get it to work, which it seems they've done that. Not as it's going to be safe. We obviously, time will tell, but I think this is a very promising and what should be a very safe technology.
I think it's just very exciting. I mean, who would have thought that less than a year into this, actually be at this turning point, which is, I mean, it's been horrible for so many people in so many different ways, but this really is a very nice glimmer of hope that maybe the lessons we've learned have not been for naught, that we're heading into a new age of not only technology and being able to confront pandemics like this, but being able to come out the other side a little bit ahead on both the way we think about life and how we treat illness. So there's a lot of talk around who's going to be first in line, who's jockeying to be first in line for these vaccines. Now, to the best of both of your knowledge, what is the state's plan? I know I've heard differing things, but they're starting to sort of converge. What are your expectations as to first, second, third kind of thing, and when the general population may be able to look forward to scheduling their appointments?
Yeah, I mean, the CDPHE has kind of put out some protocols. So, 1A is those groups who are directly caring for persons with COVID. 1B is EMS, frontline providers who aren't necessarily directly caring for COVID patients. I'm not sure if nursing home residents, sorry, I'm switching to a screen. I don't know, Joe, jump in. I think, I'm not sure whether nursing home and long-care residents is the 1B or
1C.
Or 2.
Yeah, we've had, that's my understanding definitely about the tier 1A and tier, there's 1A, 1B, and 1C. Interestingly, I have colleagues that are front-facing clinicians but aren't dealing with COVID people that have actually that they're in the first tier, the 1A, for whatever reason, different health system outside of ours. So what you've heard, I think, is, and we can look to CDPHA for what really is lined out within our state. I think there are maybe some slight modifications that health systems may have the authority to do in how they classify their providers. I mean, really, 1A was supposed to be the people, the healthcare professionals that are in the face of COVID people. Then 1B was supposed to be other clinicians that are essential for the workforce that face other people, not knowing whether they're COVID positive or negative. And then 1C was going to be everybody else within healthcare that, maybe like people in the C-suite, people that have remote patient care responsibilities or that have potential exposure. And then we go into tier 2, which are a lot of other population. We had, in Colorado, our governor has been pretty supportive of wanting to vaccinate those in nursing homes, which I do get it, very vulnerable population. And they've sort of, I've heard them referred to in tier 1B and 1C, and then sometimes in tier 2, which are maybe more people in contained environments like prisons. But I think there has been sort of there's a little bit of lack of clarity. It is in the state's discretion, and what's happening in Colorado might be different than what's happening in another state.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, obviously, it's going to be available to all of us at some point. We just sort of have to be patient to make sure that the process is worked through so that those who are in most need of it, both because of their health circumstances or their role in caring for those in those situations, get it first. So we're going to switch to family and primary care now, because that's really basically what this audience is about. How should family and primary care practices in Colorado prepare themselves and their patients for this major undertaking that is this mass vaccination plan and program that we haven't seen ever in our history?
Sure. I mean, I guess maybe I'll have some initial comments, and then I know John will definitely have some other ones. CDPHE is trying their best to give information to clinicians on that are maybe not part of large health systems on how to acquire the vaccine, how it's being allocated in distribution plans. I think in primary care, I think our providers are really need to be prepared with answering questions about this vaccine. I think that we need to, I mean, hopefully my opinion is that we need to be enthusiastic about it. We need to understand that it is a vaccine, that it's not going to give you COVID. It's not a live vaccine, but just like any vaccine, and I think most Americans, with some exceptions, have had a vaccine at one point in their life, and we know what it's like. If you do feel a little crummy or fatigued after the vaccine, I say thumbs up. Matter of fact, 2 thumbs up, because that's a sign that your body's mounting antibodies. So your body's response to actually responding to the vaccine is to produce antibodies, as though it's mimicking that your body needs to make those, and that's part of the normal vaccine response. There are some other safety concerns that are small, but they come with every vaccine, such as injection site reactions. There's a very, very low risk of anaphylaxis. So I think primary care providers need to be prepared to sort of advocate for appropriate use of vaccine, be able to explain that those at highest risk, either because of contact or health status, are going to be before other people, which is the general population. I know there's debates in Colorado whether we should immunize college students because they're just contained with each other. They get spread to other people. It's a whole different discussion. It's not representative of the most at risk for health complications, but for disseminating the infection, I get that. And I guess the last thing to be prepared about is how to do it. There's not concerns, there's special requirements for the Pfizer vaccine, which will not be in place for the Moderna vaccine. There's some shared, administrative requirements. One is in ultra cold refrigeration, which is the first one, the Pfizer one. The other one is in what I call regular refrigeration. I think we need to be prepared to know how to manage them appropriately, and to have your workforce within your communities knowing where the vaccine administration sites are going to be.
Yeah, particularly in rural areas. Especially the Pfizer vaccine and the ultra cold storage could definitely be an issue.
Yeah, it's interesting. John and I both participate in the Just in Time Echo series. And what was the comment that one of our attendees, which represents people in rural practices across the state of Colorado, somebody said, "Oh, we have those freezers for bull serum." Didn't they say that, John? Something like that. So
or their liquid nitrogen. Yeah, it was a very creative, out of the box thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. I don't really have too much to add to that. Yeah, I think the ultra cold makes it, I know there's been some frustration by primary care providers who really want to be on the front line and be giving patients these vaccines. And I think some have felt a little left out of the process because I think the vaccine is being given to kind of large centers that have the ultra cold storage. And I don't know an easy solution because, obviously ultra cold storage is a huge undertaking, and buying a refrigerator that maybe these are the vaccines of the future and every clinic will need one, but we don't know that now. So I think some have felt a little left out, even though I think they're completely on board and want to be engaged in doing this. Hopefully the AstraZeneca, which is a viral vector vaccine, and the Novavax, which is a subunit vaccine that don't need the ultra cold storage, will be approved, early in 2021. And I think those can, especially when we start looking at the wider population, hopefully be given without quite all the logistical undertaking that I think the Pfizer and Moderna are requiring, kind of centralized vaccine locations that is leaving some primary care clinics feeling left out.
Do either of you? Oh, go ahead.
Just one more consideration about the Pfizer vaccine versus the Moderna one that we hope is approved today or tomorrow. Is Pfizer, when they were gearing up their production, they estimated they would be able to provide more doses than they actually are, because their raw materials didn't meet certain standards, which is a great message to hear, that they are enforcing normal standards, not pushing that through. Mm-hmm. Because of that, it's been a lower allocation, just total wise, than what we expected. But Moderna, to my knowledge, has not had that distribution issue. So once they get approved under an emergency use authorization, they will be sending more doses out in contrast to Pfizer.
Yeah, this is just totally came into my head right now. So there is a spectrum of vaccines in the works, right? So I mean, there's going to be a plethora of these things sooner or later that people can take advantage of. Here in Colorado, do you expect, or is it even something to even speculate on, that we're going to benefit more from Pfizer and Moderna and have more doses of that than others that are coming along, like AstraZeneca or any others?
It looks like so far the preliminary results look more promising for Moderna and Pfizer than AstraZeneca and what I've heard on Novavax. So, in terms of efficacy, what we know so far, the Moderna and Pfizer look like just grand slam home runs. Hopefully we don't know about asymptomatic disease and whether that's prevented and whether there could still be transmission from asymptomatic disease. So there's still a lot we know, but I think they look very safe, and I would not have predicted them to be this successful. So I don't know the answer. It looks like we'll just have to see how successful the other vaccines are, and to who benefits. Yeah.
I think, John, you said it right. A home run. Really, I didn't expect 95% efficacy. That's very high for a vaccine, because usually like in the 70s is considered pretty good. And I think the other candidates are, at least preliminary data suggests that they're in that typical ballpark. It's just that this mRNA technology, which is nimble and allows, modifications during drug development that are easier than, an adenovector produced vaccine. So I'm hopeful. I think we're going to have more than one vaccine by the time this gets to broad distribution to communities, which may be in spring or into the summer season. There will be more than probably just two. I think the other ones will be approved, and I wouldn't read too far into that one is stronger than another per se, because even if it's 70% effective, that's pretty effective for a vaccine.
That's crazy. Yeah. Now it comes down to messaging, right? So what kind of messaging, given the anti-vax movement and all the politicization around COVID over the last few months, from your perspective, what are the most important messages that primary care docs and family practice physicians should be spreading to their patients and their communities? John?
Yeah. I think that's a tough one. I think it's the most important question, and I wish I had a better answer to that. I've certainly struggled over the years with patients who don't want vaccines. So I think where I've probably had the most success is establishing a trusting relationship. And, often with the flu shot, I don't know, Dr. K, did you get yours? And I say, yeah, I got mine. And he said, all right, I trust you, Dr. K, I'll get mine. So I think we should get it, when it's our turn to get it, we should definitely get it and be enthusiastic about it and be upfront about it. As far as messaging, I've tried different things. I think of vaccines as sort of showing your body a picture of the virus, and so your immune system can remember it and fight it when it sees it. I don't know that I've had a ton of success with my analogies and explanations of vaccines. So I know the Colorado Department of Public Health is, going out into communities and just listening to their concerns, which I think is the first thing. People, if they don't feel listened to, aren't going to listen to us. So I think that's really important. I think there's been talk of having some celebrities get the vaccine. I think, I don't want to put Peyton Manning on the spot, but Peyton Manning getting the vaccine may do more good than me getting the vaccine. So I think all those are things that people are thinking about. But I think the first thing starts with us getting the vaccine and being enthusiastic and positive about it.
Yeah, I think I've even heard of the past presidents all. I heard that Bush, Obama, and Clinton are all going to get vaccinated in public to show, bipartisan endorsement. I think the messaging, there's some unique things that I think are comforting to me to bring up with a patient because, John's right. If you have a patient that is just vehemently against vaccinations, that's a tough one. We've all have experience with that. I think we need to actually support the efficacy and safety as much as possible. One thing that's being done with this vaccine that I had not heard about before is there's something called the V-Safe program, V-Safe, that the CDC is requiring. I don't have hands-on experience because and John, you'll know when you get your vaccination. I think it's required that you're enrolled in this program, which really is it's to report symptoms for safety concerns. I just actually build a really big data bank of safety immediately after this vaccine, and then it resets when you get your second shot, and it's some kind of app program. I saw it explained by the CDC, but I think it was their way of really trying to track safety as well as possible, and that's comforting to me because we do not see that with another new vaccine that just comes along like Shingrix,
Right.
Which does hurt, by the way. So, but it was just my body's ability to mount immune response. And this question is so real because our good friend, Dr. Jeff Kane, who we all know from the Department of Family Medicine, former president of AFP, sent me an email yesterday because I worked with him for so long. Hey, what insight do you have about the Moderna versus Pfizer vaccine? Because I have people asking me. And they're mostly people who are not against vaccines. They're not anti-vaxxers. The more people that are concerned based on the politicization of these vaccines and what they've heard. And that's the world we live in right now. And I don't have that part I don't know how to completely address, other than maybe reminding people that if we want to get back to normal, I hope we do, herd immunity, in my opinion, is probably the quickest way to get back to normal. But herd immunity requires, there's been some reports people should just get infected. I would never recommend that ever, period, and anybody. But the best way, in my opinion, is through immunization, to build immunity that way. And once we get 70+%, we may have a chance at herd immunity where we can, nip this thing really in the bud and get back to normal.
Wow, that's a great segue to my whole last question. And you sort of put it all there in a nutshell. Is this really, getting back to the title slide, is this really are we turning the corner? Is this a path, the yellow brick road back to normalcy, or is there still some work to be done?
Definitely some still work to be done. I think this is huge. I'm incredibly excited, and I gave a vaccine talk in July, and I was way off base. I mean, I did not think we'd be here this quickly with vaccines this effective. So I'm delighted to have been so wrong in that talk. But, I saw in the paper that like 50% of Americans plan not to get the vaccine. Even if we had 100% effective vaccine, that doesn't get us to the 70% herd immunity. So I think, I agree completely with everything Joe said. We need to be positive about this. We need to promote it as a way back to normalcy that we all want. But I think it's a ways away, but I think this is a huge, huge, huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm hopeful, but I don't think we'll ever go back 100% to the way things were previously, because even after, another thing that people need to know is after the vaccine, we still need to wear masks. Because when I say things like we don't know the full picture, I'm not trying to shine a light to safety issues, but we really need to know the life cycle of this vaccine as far as, is it going to be something that requires a booster in the future? And we only will know that after people have been evaluated, which is underway right now, for multiple months to see if their neutralizing antibodies still are produced a year after their 2 doses of the current vaccines.
Oh, hey, I'm all for boosters, so that's fine with me. You've got my vote of confidence there. Listen, both of you, thank you. John Koeppe, Joe Saseen, we so appreciate your insights from your vast experience in this area. Thank you for joining us today for this edition of, I'm going to share my screen again, of our Family Medicine Exchange. There are more exchanges coming soon, so stay tuned, especially on the vaccine front, because things are changing daily. Thank you both very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.